All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Range Time Podcast. My name is Isaiah.
And Boaz. Looks like I've been featured a little bit more often now
Yes.
on the podcast.
Yes, you have.
Okay.
A regular now, a fan favorite, if you will. But you guys clicked on the video. You guys know exactly what
Wait, do
the title
they
is.
actually like me? I don't know if they actually like me.
Of course, everyone
Okay.
likes you. Everyone
Okay,
likes you.
Well, I don't know. Well, put in the comments.
Put in the comments.
Put your most vile hate comments toward me. I don't know. I don't care either, but whatever.
But you guys know that you clicked on the video. You know exactly what the title is. You know, you're not ready for Airsoft. Now, what exactly does that mean? Does that mean that you don't have all the gear? Does that mean that you don't have the right mindset? Well, in a nutshell, yes, to all of that. And we're going to get into specifics right into this video right now.
And more importantly, we want to go over, because of our background.
Yes.
Isaiah and I, we've been playing Airsoft for a very long time. In fact, actually, Isaiah, how long have you been playing Airsoft for?
I'll be completely honest, I forget. It's either 13 or 14 years.
And you know what? I could say around the same. So we've been playing ever since we were, I guess, like right when I turned like 13.
13, 14
yeah,
years
13,
old. That sounds
14,
about right.
Yeah, and then, now we're kind of sneaking up into our late 20s now.
I don't like this feeling.
Yeah, I still feel young. I don't know about you. But because of all those years of experience that we've had, playing, we would like to set you up for success and kind of go into, things like your mindset, things to bring and what to expect.
Small little tips here and there that
Yeah.
are going to get your Airsoft experience like a lot better than, I would dare say, a lot better than ours. Even though I feel like we've had pretty good experiences in Airsoft overall and we've had a pretty good time getting into Airsoft, it wasn't perfect and we definitely made some mistakes along the way.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times because like even for me when I was first getting into Airsoft, I was just so excited just to play Airsoft. I didn't really think too much about what to bring or like what kind of mindset, and like little things like what you
Your
said
expectations
earlier.
just weren't
Mhm.
realistic, I guess.
Yeah. So my mind immediately jumped to, me being in the field, hosing down some noobs, but instead of thinking, hey, like how to properly prepare for a full day of play, because if you're gonna pay around like around close to like $30 now, maybe a bit more depending on where you go to play Airsoft, you're gonna probably want to stay there all day, right? This is not just like a 1 hour affair.
Yeah, you want to
Not-
get your money's worth at that point.
You're probably gonna play close to anywhere between, on the minimum, probably anywhere between 4 to 6, sometimes even 8 hours.
Oh shit! I completely zoned out there. I thought there was gonna be more there. But
Okay.
yes, okay. So getting all into it, what would you say is like, I guess, one of the most important things, or like the number one top priority, like thing that you would want to give, or piece of advice you would want to give to someone who's getting into this, as far as like, okay, this is the biggest thing you need to prepare yourself for. What would you say?
Well, I think it's just bringing the right things. So obviously, if you're gonna play Airsoft and you have an Airsoft gun, now this is all coming from the perspective of, let's say you have your Airsoft gun, right? Is outside of just bringing the gun, just making sure that you are bringing everything you need to the field. So there's been a lot of times where like even up till like fairly recently, like I would pack up all my things and get ready to play, and then I go out to the field. I drive like about like an hour, like where we go usually play. It's almost like an hour drive.
Mm-hmm.
Show up and then get everything ready to go, and then as soon as it's time to walk on the field, oh, I don't have my protection.
Oh, that's
I don't
the
have
worst.
I don't have my lower face protection. Oh shoot, I forgot to bring my speed loader, right? Like little things like that. And so making sure that you're bringing the right thing. So now for me, what I do is part of it's just like organizing everything. So now I might try to do this, make an actual YouTube video, just going over like my entire like Airsoft day of play setup.
Oh, okay.
But like not like my tactical gear, but just like the logistics. Right?
Yeah.
Like bringing things to the field. So yeah, but for me, I keep everything in one place. So I have like a big box basically that I throw all my Airsoft stuff in, and then I double check everything the night before. I triple check the morning of, and then after that I'll take that to the field. But again, it's all in like, usually it's like in one box, or like one box and then some gun bags.
One conveniently located spot where everything's at.
Exactly. So that I made a big point, because there's so many times where I show up and I don't have anything, and then the only way I would ever end up being able to play is just the good graces of my friends that will loan me like spare pieces of kit. But yeah, making sure that you're bringing the right things. So big things for me is like eye protection.
Mm-hmm.
and batteries for your gun.
Batteries,
Yeah,
magazines. I feel like
yeah,
is a
yeah,
big
all,
one.
all small things. Yeah, so all those small pieces I put into one bag, and so that way, like, I don't have to remember. Oh shoot, I have to take my goggles cases. Oh shoot, I have to take my batteries. You know, like I'm not grabbing multiple things. I store everything in one place. So now I take that one bag, you know, with me. Again, one bag in the one box.
Yes, yes,
And
no,
then
I
go
know.
take
It's
it,
super convenient at that
Yeah.
point if it's all just in one area.
Yeah.
I think like at that point, if you're not doing that, you can expect the next morning, right, the morning of that you're scheduled to go out and play, you're just going to be scrambling to find everything you need because everything's scattered all over the room.
Yeah.
Even to myself, I'm a pretty disorganized person when it comes to even my airsoft equipment. I have pieces of kit here, pieces of kit there, which is something that I'm trying to get better at. But yes, for me, a lot of times it was very much like, oh, I need to go play airsoft this morning. Oh, I didn't charge my batteries, so I'm struggling to make everything sure everything is properly charged. I have all my magazines loaded up. I'm ready to go. Because again, you show up to the field. You're right. That has happened to me where I've shown up and like, you know, I'm unpacking all my stuff. I'm getting ready to chrono and get ready for the day. And it turns out I forgot my sidearm, right? I forgot my magazine, or I forgot my green gas, held my batteries. I feel like batteries is actually the worst one.
Yeah.
Because at that point, yeah, you have everything, but if you don't have your batteries, then you're done. You're screwed.
You're like the homeless guy at the airsoft field. Oh, anyone have a spare battery? Please, spare battery. You know, like it's. I mean, again, most people are going to be very nice and they're going to want to try to help you out, but you know, like it's just not a good position to be in because now you're thinking, oh man, like I just paid you know money to play here, and then I don't have a way to play.
And even if you were to get a battery, right? Like say it like works out where someone is able to loan you a battery. Now it is your responsibility to take care of that battery and nothing happens to it because you're borrowing someone else's property. And if something bad were to happen to you, like maybe you misplaced the battery, you lost it, and now you have to owe this person money or you have to buy them a new battery. Like it just becomes a big hassle that most people ideally wouldn't want to have to deal with in the first place.
Yeah, so for me, I make a checklist. Sometimes I'd even write down a physical checklist, right? Like batteries, do I have batteries? Eye protection, do I have eye protection? You know, am I bringing my BBs? Am I bringing my speed loader? Am I bringing my, you know, this, that, and the third? So I have a list, and then I check everything off just so that way I have that sense of security when I'm leaving my house and going to the field. I'm able to go there confidently and be like, hey, I have everything I need.
Yeah. I think just having that like sort of expectation of like, it's really wrong to have that expectation that everything's just going to be ready for you by the time you're good to go. Like even if you're a younger player getting into airsoft, like you should still take the initiative, show responsibility on your end, and like have everything pre-prepared, ready to go before the event. Dare I say, the day before that you're going to go out and play.
Yeah,
right?
treat it like it's a camping trip almost. You know?
Exactly.
So,
that's a good way of actually looking at that.
Yeah. So you know, the very first time I played airsoft in an actual field, I was that kid. I had the gun in the box of the G&G combat machine. In the box, I had no gun bag because I didn't have enough money to get a gun bag. So it was in the box with the high cap mag, and then I had a couple other like high cap mags actually that I had from an older low power AEG. Yeah, but surprisingly, it came with standard Tokyo Marui style, you know.
Oh, that's kind of
mags.
cool.
Yeah, so I had a high cap mag. So yeah, that and spare high cap mag in the thing, and then, you know, I carried my vest, my cross draw tactical vest, like in the other hand, and then like, you know, a little sandwich bag with the sandwich, you know, for the lunch break.
Oh, dude, you're
And
bringing
then-
me like
then-
back in time.
Yeah, and then I'd carry like a little like jar of BBs, and then, you know, like, and then I'm cradling also like water bottles, you know, so it was like a mess, you know, and then I had a paintball mask, so, you know.
How many trips did you have to make from the car?
I mean, generally for me, I'm ever since I was a kid to this day, I'm still very much a one trip wonder, one trip grocery bag type of dude. So yeah, like I was like doing like, you know, my 13-year-old Boaz is like, you know, hobbling down, you know, the airsoft field, and, you know, after being dropped off, you know, by my dad at the time, and then just try to one trip everything, like just trying to make it work. So, you know, like it's harder to keep track of things. Like I was, thankfully that first time I didn't lose anything, you know, but it was very easily could have happened where, you know, I didn't have the battery. I didn't have, you know, I could have forgotten the BBs in the car. I could have forgot, you know, and then my dad would have just like driven away, and then that's
That would
it.
have been it. Yeah, there's nothing else you can do at that point.
Yeah, so, you know, like I would have saved myself a lot of trouble if I took the time maybe the night before, just grab like a duffel bag even, you know? So I can have like the box with the gun and stuff and the battery and everything just in the cardboard box. And then everything else, like my mask, my vest, my, you know, like water, my lunch or whatever, just in a duffel bag. Then I have 2 consolidated items that I know confidently I'm bringing into the field, you know, and then it would have been so much simpler. But you know, even for me, like I fell victim to that. You know?
No, I mean, at some point or another, look, we're all beginners, right? This is, by the way, this whole like topic is not to shame any newer players that are getting into this, right? Or if you've made the same mistake, by all means, you know, if you're a veteran player for, you know, however many years, I'm sure at some point or another, we've all made this exact same mistake, right? So there's no shame in that whatsoever.
Well, consider it as brotherly advice.
Yes, yes.
It is brotherly advice. And again, this is not even for beginners. I see a lot of people that have been playing for a while.
They still make these mistakes.
Yeah, even some of our Milsim teammates, right? Like they're constantly like struggling to bring everything, you know, because I mean, yeah, they're bringing a lot more stuff, but you know, like they haven't really thought through logistically, like, oh, like, am I bringing everything?
Mm-hmm.
It still happens to the best of us, and so I think it's, for me personally, what works best is just you put everything in one spot. You know, you grab everything, put it into one spot, so that way you're not missing anything.
No, absolutely.
Yes.
You actually did mention when you were talking about like going over the checklist, there was actually something that was on there that I feel like gets really overlooked a lot of times to this day, and I will still notice it. You obviously are a frequent goer at Wildlands, and I'm sure you notice it as well, is people who forget hydration. I feel like hydration is such a big thing that people seem to skip out on.
Yeah, and that actually, I think hydration actually kind of ties in with safety, because I think people really underestimate how much you exert yourself at the airsoft field. So a thing is, I guess, to consider is that airsoft is something that we would consider like a high stress sport, right? Like, yes, of course, like we're not, you know, it's not like real like combat or anything, but still there is a level of stress that your body goes through, because again, you're playing, it's like the very close equivalent to like something like a combat sport, right? So you're going against other people, and in your mind, instinctively, psychologically, you kick into a different gear, right? So almost like a fight or flight response. So you're actually putting yourself through that, you know, for periods of time, and that takes a lot out of your body. And so with that coming to effect, like you get all like the adrenaline, right, rushing through you. And so you're basically, instead of, you know, normally in a normal environment, we're able to gauge really well. Like, hey, like, let's say like you go on a run or something, right? Like, hey, I'm gonna put like 50% effort into the run, or I could put 60%. You're able to gauge that. But when you're in that scenario, the higher stress scenario, all that kind of goes out the window. So now it becomes more like 0 or 100%. It's harder to gauge the levels in between. And so because of that, you're going to be sweating a lot, and again, your body's going to exert itself harder. So you need to be more conscious of keeping your body running.
No, I would say you are 100% correct. Like, airsoft is one of those hobbies, or sports, I should say. In this regard, I'll consider it a sport. It's one of those sports where it is 0 to 100 real quick. You have so much adrenaline going through your body. You're not really going to keep in mind like, oh, I need to pace myself, especially if you're taking fire. You're going to think, oh, I need to duck, I need to move, I need to be quick, I need to be efficient. And all that requires a lot of energy. And I feel like a lot of people go in with the expectation that, oh, it's going to be just like a video game, right? It's going to be super quick rounds. They're not going in thinking like, oh, I'm going to be exerting myself, at least not to this extent, to the point where they would need to drink this much in between sets. What would you say for someone like trying to go out and get ready? Would you say going with like maybe a hydro flask like yours, maybe going with like some type of Camelback? What do you think would be the best?
Honestly, it doesn't matter. So my biggest tip, especially like because like I'm into like fitness and working out and stuff, and wellness. I hate using that word, but the biggest tip, honestly, is hydration happens the day before. So whatever you're going to be doing, so if you're anticipating doing something like, I guess, very physical, hydration always comes the day before, not on the day of. If you hydrate on the day of, it is too late. It is too late. So your body will naturally store water, right? So your body naturally has almost like a water tank, almost, right? And so that's what sweat is, right? It's like stored up water, right, to cool you down, and also your body uses the water to function. So we want to make sure that tank is full. So normally with most people, especially in America, most of us, we're not physically active. We spend most of the time like sitting down, right, in front of a screen, whether you're playing on the couch playing video games, or at your desk now playing video games, or
just
you're
doing work,
lying on your bed looking at your phone watching TV, right? Yeah, most activities in America, it's all done sitting down in an air conditioned place. Okay, so or even if you're working your job, right? Like most jobs are like office jobs or like store jobs, and a lot of these types of work, it doesn't really involve a lot of physical movement. So because of that, your body doesn't necessarily need to be, I guess you would say, like have that full reserve of water. So I tend to notice, I see a tendency of people living their life kind of underhydrated, and that's fine if you continue to live the rest of your week, let's say, throughout the week, just in that state, that's fine. But as soon as you introduce more stress or you introduce more physical activity, then that's when people start to suffer. And so if you're gonna play airsoft, I always recommend the day before, drink a lot of water. So when I was in high school and doing sports, our coach used to say, if you train right, you'll pee white. So using your urine is actually a very good indicator of how well hydrated you are.
Which, by the way, white, I actually do believe if it's like actually legit white, I actually believe that that's actually an illness. I believe that.
Well, you don't want it to be clear.
I know
you don't want it to be clear. So basically, urine. So your pee, right? Your pee is a combination of
uric acid and water.
Yeah, urea, what's called urea, and water. So usually there's a ratio. Okay, so the urea is the actual waste that your body produces that you pee out, and then it also dumps out excess water. Okay, so the ratio between the urea and water, like that's why it's a good indicator. So let's say if your pee is like dark orange or like really deep like amber yellow, right? Think about the ratio between the urea and the water, right? That's a higher ratio, meaning you're not drinking a lot of water, right? So your body's actually holding on to most of that water. It's not letting most of it out.
It smells gross too.
Yes. But if you start peeing like more like a pale yellow to like almost clear, like you don't want to pee completely clear. That of course, like there's such a thing as overhydrating, but you kind of want to be there at like a very pale yellow consistency, and that's usually an indicator that you're properly hydrated. So your body has stored it, your internal body, the water tank is full, and now like whatever else you're drinking is just excess, and it'll just your body will naturally regulate.
If you guys are looking to perform better, generally as well, and one thing I want to add to that as well, I would probably recommend maybe don't eat like a ton of junk food like the night before, like for dinner, especially if you're going to be playing in like getting out in the morning. You're just going to like asking for trouble at that point. You are not going to be able to perform at your optimal like peak at that point. You're just going to feel like crap when you're on the field running.
So also another thing that I notice for people is when I see people at the airsoft field, I see a lot of people criminally underhydrated, like criminally dehydrated, and they bring their Camelback. I don't like Camelbacks anymore. I used to run Camelbacks or like a hydration bladder like all the time. Now I completely moved away from it, and the first reason is when you're out there on the field, like when you're playing, like I noticed that like you just have this habit of like, oh, when you stop, you stop and drink, which you might at the moment you might think, oh, that's a good thing, he's getting his hydration. It's like, no, because now when you introduce your water into your body while you're physically exerting yourself, like it leads to like a lot of cramping. And then the second big reason why I moved away from Camelbacks or hydration bladders in general is because I do not have a way to monitor my water consumption.
You think you'd be consuming too much?
Not enough, not much, or not like, no. At the end of the day, like I can't. It's hard to physically see. So for example, like my water jug that I have right here, right? It's a 64 ounce, right? Got it at Walmart.
Yeah.
Okay. Like I can open this up and check. Hey, like how full is this, right? Versus a Camelback, like on my back, it's hard to check. Hey, how much water have I drank? It's hard to tell. Like you can maybe sort of tell by like the weight of it, maybe, but unless you're really chugging down the water, and because the change is so gradual when you drink a Camelback, you're not going to be able to tell how much water you drink. So generally, like if you want something insulated, like a Hydro Flask, I recommend this, and bring a couple extra bottles of water with you. But even just individual water bottles, that's a great way to check how much water you're drinking. So in between rounds. So my strategy is I drink a lot of water the day before. When I'm out in the field, of course, I bring a copious amount of water. But in between matches, in between games, mostly you want to control how much you drink water. So I'll just take controlled sips.
Yeah.
You know, to where I'm not chugging down bottles, but I'm taking measured sips to make sure that like I'm just enough to where I'm not like dying of thirst. But if I'm well hydrated, I won't feel that way.
No, yeah,
Right, yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
No, I would 100% agree to that. Like one of the biggest strategies that I feel like most guys that I see on like walk-on fields will typically do is even it doesn't have to be the giant like blue classic coolers back then. Like you can use just a small little like lunch bag, just something, maybe an ice pack in there, and throw in like a couple water bottles, and that's pretty much all you really need. Just like I would say maybe 4 to 5 bottles of water, and that you should be pretty much set. Because remember, you're not supposed to be chugging those waters. That's not good. You get this really big like waterlogged feeling.
Yeah.
You feel like almost pregnant, and you end up throwing up.
Yeah,
on the
you
field.
get it leads to nausea, and then it leads because your body just ends up rejecting the water because you're getting so much at once. It can't process all that water. So like your body has to absorb that water, and it's a gradual process. It takes time. And so if you just introduce just a ton of water into your system, your body's gonna be like, I don't know, like I could absorb this much. Everything else I can't, like it's overwhelming right now. It has to go. So that's why people throw up sometimes, like how you mentioned, and also like your muscles just cramp. Yeah. You just cramp, yeah. And so another thing is be aware of your climate. So, we're here at Airsoft GI, we're all based in Southern California, and it's very dry. And then a lot of places where we play at, they're away from cities, and usually we're kind of getting into like the desert territory.
Yeah.
So it's very hot.
Specifically high desert.
Yeah.
Might get a little bit of wind in there as well.
So high and dry, hot. So because of that, it's gonna lead us to sweat a lot more, right? Like because we're drying out, our body's constantly having to re-moisturize air, so we lose a lot of water. So for us, like where we play at, like hydration is like extremely important. Yeah. And that, and also for me personally, I like to introduce some form of electrolytes. Like, dude, I remember there's one time where like I didn't, and I sweat so hard. It was like,
didn't you get like salt stains or something? Like
no, I get salt stains all the time.
Oh,
okay. Because I have a high sodium diet, but most Americans do. But like it was at a bachelor party.
Okay.
Yeah, one of my best friends who was getting married, and so he really wants to play airsoft, and he just works a job where he has to work weekends, so he doesn't have time to play airsoft normally. So he really wants to play airsoft. Invited all his friends and family, and I was so hyped. I was like, I can't wait.
When was this?
This was back in I want to say like maybe 2021.
Oh, okay. So not like super long ago, like 2 years ago.
Yeah, maybe 2021. I don't remember, but anyway, yeah. So we were at our home field. We had a private party event, so no walk-ons. It was just our group. It was a pretty big group, and so and it was hot, man. It was in the hundreds. Jeez. It was dry. Yeah, there was like a wildfire somewhere in the distance. Like the air quality wasn't great, but I was sweating buckets, and I drank probably close to like over a gallon just from playing, and I was underhydrated because I didn't, I forgot to hydrate the night before, and so by the end of the day, legit my entire body was cramping. Like when I kid you not, like when I was like screwing shut like the water bottle cap or whatever, my fingers cramped up. Like, that's how bad it was. Like I sit down, my hamstrings cramp, my glutes cramped. Like I get up, then like my legs and my core, I could feel every muscle just like cramping up. It was terrible. So having electrolytes, like after that, I was like, I need to make sure to get some electrolytes. So, you can get electrolytes from a lot of different sources. So, obviously you can get Gatorade. I think if you're on a budget,
you can get like the little packets too of electrolytes as well. You can buy like packets of those at like Walmart for like cheap.
So now every single, and Isaiah knows, every time we go to a multi-day MILSIM event, I'm always packing those. Again, literally $2 at Walmart. $2 at Walmart, you get a nice like 8-pack of these like mini like Gatorade powder
electrolyte powders.
Yeah, and you just mix it into your water. So you pour that into your water bottle, shake it up, and then you drink that. So I like to combine both just drinking water and electrolytes, because if you just drink electrolytes, like it's a lot of salt.
Yeah.
So it kind of messes with you. Like in my experience, if I exclusively only drink that, so I'll mix it up to where like I'll take a sip of water and then I'll take a sip of like the Gatorade stuff, and mix and match. Yeah. So Gatorade powder is there. like all the whatchamacallit, the little squeeze bottles of the Mio or whatever.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
Mios.
they have like electrolyte versions of that. So that's very important. But again, it's completely dependent on, you have to understand your body. You have to understand, how you react to a lot of these like high stress, high exertion kind of environments. And like also you have to take a look at like where you're at, right? If you're like used to, let's say, more like humid, temperate environment, or like if you're used to like, let's say, the cold, let's say, right? You come to Southern California in the summer and play, like you are in for a special treat, my friend.
Yes.
Yeah, you're in for a special treat. So take that into account, right? Bring water and hydrate the night before.
Yeah, no, I feel like that's honestly going to be the best piece of advice when it comes to like hydration. Because again, like going in, because I feel like so many people have this expectation that when they go in, that again, maybe it's just because like video game culture, right? Because again, we're so used to just being like, oh,
hold shift to sprint,
shift to sprint, right?
Across
Unlimited
the map.
sprint,
Yeah.
right? Like all that stuff, like it's not going to matter when you're actually on the field because again, you are physically there exerting yourself. You need to go ahead and actually take care of your bodies, and that's like the biggest piece of advice if you want to be able to go ahead and perform at that peak level.
Yeah. And then I think another thing to talk about is the other half, not only water, but food. And I think a lot of players out there right now, or when I observe, is that they also do not understand how important food is when you get to the airsoft field.
Listen, I 100% agree on that as well. Like food is another thing that like people have to take into consideration. Their diet plays such a huge role in your, not even just like airsoft wise, just everyday life as well. I mean, like again, you said you were into the wellness, right? I am getting into that as well. And like, yeah, like your diet plays such a huge crucial role into how you perform, how you move, and how you feel overall, right? Most people go in with the expectation like it's not gonna matter, right?
Yeah.
But the reality is, yeah, if you eat a bunch of like junk food, like right before, especially the night of, like right before you go out and play, you're gonna feel like shit when you go out and play.
Yeah, so like I think it's interesting because a lot of airsoft fields, they let's be honest, like they serve like bowling alley food, like they serve party food. I understand,
it's
like
cheap.
Yeah, because they rely on a lot of like big parties, like whether it is a kid's birthday party or even like adult birthday party, they rely on like company, like for adults, like company, like work outings, stuff like that, right? So usually, they provide that kind of food because it fits the occasion, right? So the most common thing is like pizza,
hot dogs, maybe
burgers,
some burgers.
Yeah, and that stuff is heavy, man. Like after you eat that, like you don't want to move anymore.
No, yeah.
Right. So like so now like you put your body through the ringer already. Playing airsoft, you're pounding sweat. Like adrenaline's pumping through you. Like your brain is like on high stress mode, and
sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, your body's on like high stress mode, and then you sit down, and now like you get this like really high fat, high salt, like really heavy starchy food, and now your body has to immediately switch gear and be like, all right, all that blood rushing to the brain and your muscles, that's all going into your stomach.
Yeah,
right?
Your body's literally just gonna say like, no, I refuse at that point.
Well, not the refuse, because at the end of the day, like our bodies are hard. Like this is all hardwiring programming, right? It's like this is like firmware, in our bodies. So naturally, instinctively, your body's gonna be like, oh, like okay, you had food. Okay, now the priority is to like digest the food, right? So like you're gonna eat all that food, and everyone just goes the lunch slump. You're just like, oh, I don't want to do anything.
Everyone's got the meat sweats. Everyone wants to take a nap.
Yeah. So, like I find that very like counterintuitive. Like the food that a lot of people eat or bring right to the field is like it doesn't allow you to enjoy the rest of the day to play.
I'm not saying that you can't have a little snack right in between the session, especially if there's like a lunch break. Yeah, I would say that's a great opportunity to go ahead and maybe load up on just something small and very lightweight. Personally, I mean, I don't know about you, but I usually don't eat anything, right? Like then again, I'm on like a pretty like strict diet. Like I only eat like once a day, which not saying that you should do that, but in general, that's what I've noticed works best for me. Like even in the lunch break, I won't even really eat anything. I'll usually just make sure I hydrate again. And that's usually about it. Because again, I want to feel lightweight. I want to feel like I'm agile. I don't want to feel heavy or sluggish when I'm on the field.
Yeah, I mean, that is an option. Like, yeah, there's some times where I just go without eating, but personally for me, like, I notice that I end up like crashing because like, at the end of the day, like our bodies are machines machines that turn sugars into energy. So at the end of the day, you're gonna need some form of sugar, and generally by sugar I don't mean like candy, I don't mean like soda. I'm talking about simple sugar. So like the type of sugar that we find in like sweet food or sweet drinks and stuff, those are very big complicated sugars, right? Like bread is it's literally just a loaf of sugar.
Yeah.
You know, like noodles are just very
Streams of sugar.
extremely complicated sugars. Yeah. So the more complicated your food is, the more complicated the sugar is, the longer it's going to take for your body to break down and turn it into usable energy. So generally, when I play, if I feel hungry, I eat just enough not to feel hungry anymore. So it has been our team tradition, or some of us that are fun and want to embrace tradition, is that when we go shopping for food, like let's say like the night before,
Yes.
you know, like we would bring water, electrolytes, you know, like Gatorade and stuff like that. Is I would buy like two Lunchables, two kids Lunchables, and that'll be like my meal. And so I'll be like, you know, eating little bits of it throughout the day, you know, so that way like I don't feel like super heavy and sluggish, you know, like by taking in a big meal. Because I think a lot of times like because they have the lunch break in between, like let's say like right at the halfway point of the day, like we're not really eating. No one's eating in between games earlier on in the day, right?
Yeah.
So then everyone's really hungry. They sit down, they're like, I'm hungry, I need to eat, and then they'll overeat. And afterwards they're like, yo, I don't want to play anymore. You know, I'm like now like they're losing like half the day.
No, yeah. Well, again, just being able to have that control and just set your expectations of like how you want to, like what to eat and what's going to end up happening. That's just a big part of it, right? That again, I feel like it's looked at or rather not looked at enough. But moving past that and beyond like the dining, we've gone over again like pieces of equipment that you would want to bring, right?
Yeah.
We've gone over like again dieting, like what you should be doing, how you should be treating your bodies beforehand, what to expect if you don't do this, right? What are now some expectations that you think people have misconceived about like maybe in the actual gameplay itself?
Yeah, but for I guess a piece of useful advice, actionable advice, bring 1 to 2 sandwiches, 1 to 2 simple sandwiches.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, and then fruits and vegetables go a long way. So pack that. Don't pack too much food, but just again 1 to 2 sandwiches, maybe a couple fruits and veggies as a snack. Like try
sliced oranges.
Yeah, stay away from the soda, stay away from the candy, and stay away from like all the super sugary or salty foods like chips. Stay away from that. It's gonna dehydrate you, and you're not gonna feel good afterwards. So yeah, that's actionable advice. Okay, so please could you reiterate?
Yeah, no worries. So it's like we've gone over all that, right? Like as far as food, like the actual diet, like how much you should be eating, pieces of equipment that you should bring. But what do you think are some like expectations that people need to have when it comes to actually playing the game itself, right? Or maybe some expectations that they have that are a bit unrealistic. For me, one of the ones that I notice is like people, especially like newer players, right, go in and again they're new, they don't really know too much, but they come in with the misconception that they're going to be able to get like almost like a Call of Duty lobby, right, where it's just
get that 25 kill streak, call them that tactical nuke.
Yeah, stuff like that. I just feel like it's just realistically not going to happen, right? Especially if you're a beginner. Not saying it's impossible, right? Because you could just be John Wick reincarnated, right? But we don't really see that happening at the end of the day. Again, like you're not going to be getting a shit ton of kills like your very first game. What's more likely going to happen is you're going to go out into the field. You're going to move around a lot. You're not going to really know where everything is because you've never been to the field before, and you're going to get shot.
Well, I think it's because a lot of times we start playing Airsoft out of a fantasy.
Yes.
Right. So we have the fantasy of being the John Wick, being the on TV, you know, like Chris Pratt from Zero Dark 30, or I don't know, like or being like Chris Hemsworth in Extraction, you know, Australian John Wick. So like, you know, we come in with that fantasy, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No,
you know, like
hell no.
That's the whole point why we play. But that's not reality. You know, the reality is you're gonna get shot, and you know you're gonna get shot. You're gonna get shot a lot. You know, like even I guess in the real world, right? Like if you look at, you know, like infantrymen from, you know, in the armed forces, or if you look at even like all like the super cool like special forces guys, like a lot of them die. That's reality. You're gonna get shot. You're gonna die. It's almost a statistical certainty. Yeah. Right. Like it doesn't matter how much you train, how much you do all this and that, and it doesn't matter what kind of gear you have. At the end of the day, more than likely you're gonna get shot. You're gonna die.
There's just way too many variables at that point.
Yeah. I mean, it's just what it is. You know. So, I think the biggest expectation in Airsoft is you're gonna get shot. You're gonna get shot a lot, and you're gonna die. But at the end of the day, like getting shot sucks. But for me, the mindset is, hey, like I'm here to have fun. That's number one. Like, hey, I paid money, right? So like if I paid money and I have a bad experience, then I wasted my money. Yeah. And then I wasted my day. So I I make a conscious decision. I am going to have fun, right? It can be fun as in like, hey, like, you know, you could hang out with your friends, right? Like you get to wear your cool outfits and show off your cool guns, right? And
you're here to have a fantastic time with your fabulous friends and your fantastic costumes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's the number one rule is like for me is at the end of the day, like regardless of how your day goes, whether or not you get like absolutely slam dunked on by like, you know, by all the sweaty tryhards at the field, or, you know, even if like there are like, let's say like cheaters at the airsoft field, we'll get into that a little later, but cheaters, or I don't know, like if all your gear and guns like break down or whatever, at the end of the day, like it doesn't matter what happens, like I am here to have fun. Yeah. So I will find some way to have fun, you know, make that day worth it.
Whether it's just looking cool with your friends, especially you can go with your friends, right?
Yeah.
Just taking cool squad pics, right?
Oh yeah.
That's like super fun. I know we're big advocates for that whenever we go to like these Milsim events, right? In between like games, or sometimes in the middle of a firefight, we'll just be like, hey, we got some downtime. Hey, let's take some hard pics right now.
Oh, absolutely. And those pics go the hardest because because you're with your friends, right? Like you're showing off the culmination. We're celebrating the hobby, right? Like I think that's one thing that I think in airsoft that we don't really see very often is like we don't really celebrate the hobby, right? We don't go like, hey, like it doesn't matter who you are, or it doesn't matter if you like mag dump me a million times or whatever. Like, hey, you love airsoft, I love airsoft. Like this is freaking fantastic, you know? Like, but again, that's a pretty extreme example, but like even with your friends, right?
I get the idea. Yeah.
Hey, you spend all this time and money setting up your gear, you know, kitting out your gun, upgrading your gun, you know, like researching stuff about airsoft to make you feel like a better player, you know, like, hey, you know, like, yeah, you should show that off, you know, you should share that with your friends, and, you know, you guys should all come together and celebrate the hobby in that way. And,
no, absolutely. It's a cool hobby to have, right? It's one of those like hobbies that, again, not every single person plays. It is even though, again, we are within this podcast, right? I'm assuming most of the viewers here are already airsofters, right? But you got to think about it. Airsoft in itself is a very, very niche hobby, right? That not too many people play. And, you know, by celebrating this, leads to a potential of being able to get more people into it, right? Because they see how much fun you're having with this.
Yeah, and then airsoft is a multifaceted hobby.
Yes.
Many different aspects. So, you know, like, I think the most popular thing to talk about is, of course, the actual playing, where you get to shoot each other.
Oh, the play of the guns themselves.
Yeah. But there's so many different aspects of the hobby, right? Like there's a lot of them are also that play airsoft are gun collectors. We all know Cisco's expansive private collection, right? He has like 89 M4s.
Enough guns to stock like a small store.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, like he just loves collecting the guns. And a lot of our teammates, even us included, Isaiah also has a very extensive collection, right? We like to collect guns. That's another part of the hobby that, you know, that needs to be celebrated, right? Or coming up with cool gun setups, like even like Isaiah's, right, with his NGC4 Mark II, right? Like he set it up, you know, he set it up in a unique way that is unique to him and his style, right? Like that needs to be celebrated, right? Or even like all the impression kits. There's a lot of like milsimmers or people that want to like cosplay as like their favorite military unit, or people that like to cosplay from like their favorite movies or video games.
Of course.
You know, like that all, you know, needs to be celebrated, you know? And even when I was a 13-year-old, you know, going to airsoft field for the first time, that was the first time I got to see serious airsofters. You know, people that really, I guess, were into the hobby. You know, I showed up in like some like army surplus, like woodland top and like my jeans and just like my regular tennis shoes and a paintball mask, right? Like I don't have it. Oh, and then my actually no, this was before I had the vest. I didn't even have the vest. Yeah, so it was just that, you know, and then I had like one extra mag like in my pocket, and that was it, you know. And for me, like I was like admiring, like, yo, like these guys have like really cool, you know, like kits.
We've all been there. We've all been that kid looking at these guys.
And of course, it's like it was intimidating. It was intimidating to approach them, but I think once you approach them, you ask them about like, hey, like that's a really cool setup you have. Like, oh, like what's this and what's that? And you know, what's crazy was, you know, those older dudes, like they were more than happy to, you know, share about, you know, their experiences and what they're running, and, you know, give good advice, you know. And like, and even though I don't know them at all on a personal level, for the day we were friends.
Yeah.
Right?
No, like, and that's something that to this day, I still love about the airsoft community, because it doesn't matter what facet of airsoft it is, right? If you go to a field, or if you see a collector, whoever it might be, and you start asking them questions about, hey, you have this, what is this? Or how do you like this particular setup? Or how do you like this plate gear or this chest rig, right? They are like 99.9% of the time, they are like super ecstatic to share with you this piece of equipment and their experiences with it, and whether or not they would recommend it.
And even I had this one guy that was a regular at our field before he moved out of state. Yeah, he just had a whole table just with all this personal goods laid out, and he would just invite people, like he'd invite kids and everyone just to try them out, and like he was super proud of how he set them up, and like the way that he took care of him. Like he even would bring like a can of like compressed air to like clean out like his guns in between matches. Hey, kudos to him, man. Like he loves his guns.
That's cool.
He loves his guns, and again, like he was very inviting to the younger, newer players, to show like, hey, like with enough time, like you could do this too. Like when I was a kid, like 13-year-old me, if he were to see me today, like his mind would be blown. Like when I was a 13-year-old, like I never thought I could have owned a KWA. I would go to sleep dreaming about buying a KWA gun. And like now, like, hey, I have like 3 or 4 different KWA guns. That I run. So again, like but all that was because I was motivated, right? I was inspired by these older players that thankfully I was able to just talk to, just to reach out to, and then they were pretty much showing me, hey, like if you put enough time into the hobby and stuff, and you continue to love the hobby, like, hey, like better things will come your way.
No, we were all that little kid, right? That when we would go to the airsoft field, we'd see all these more experienced players, or these guys with money, a little bit older guys, and we'd see the kit they would have and the guns that they were running. It was just so like cool to see. And yeah, you're right. You actually like kind of brought me back. I got a wave of nostalgia from that, because I do remember specifically going to like Hollywood Sports, that used to be my home field, and I would see all these guys, right? Especially like a lot of like the like smaller local like Milsim-esque teams, right? That would all show up, and I was like, oh, they all got like matching camos. That's so cool, right? And I wanted to be that too. And it's kind of funny now, to an extent, we are kind of like that now. But I think at the time, my expectation was that like when I would see that, the expectation all of a sudden became, oh man, I'm just gonna get absolutely curb stomped. Everyone's gonna treat me like like some little kid that doesn't know anything, which I mean, I was, to be fair, but like everyone's just gonna like treat me like crap. Everyone's just gonna want to go and bully me. And then oddly enough, sure enough, that ended up not being the case, because I would just talk to people. And again, airsoft is an honor sport, right? It's played with integrity. It's played with integrity. That didn't end up happening for the most part. And I was very, very pleased with my experience of airsoft.
Yeah, and I think just from my own observations, I think because this is like I don't know, like I mean, most of airsoft, like to an extent, again, like I keep equating it to something like a combat sport. For example, like boxing. Or
That's valid.
MMA. Again, not nearly as
dangerous
as
boxing can be real dangerous.
Yeah, but anyway, but I'm saying, it's like, I'm not saying that airsoft is a combat sport, but I'm just like giving the closest equivalent, right?
Sure.
Is that like naturally, I think us dudes, our testosterone's running high, right? So in the environment, like we put on our kit, we look super cool, right? We think we're cool, we feel like John Wick, we feel like, I don't know, like Mark Wahlberg from Lone Survivor, like I don't know, but when you walk around field, yeah, like we kind of naturally, we give off the air like, yeah, like I'm the man, like I feel super badass. Hey, yeah, absolutely, right? Like, why do you think we put on cool kit? Why do we think we buy cool kit and make cool guns? Because we want to feel badass, right? Like that's the whole point. But I think like if you're from a distance looking at that, you're like, yo, I don't think these guys ever want to talk to me. Yo, like but that's not the case. Like if you go out of your way, just like, hey, do you mind telling me like what that chest rig you're wearing is, right? Like, and they'll be like, oh yeah, this is blah 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 blah.
Sure, when you go to the field,
that air of like the like the badass like Sigma male,
the facade.
Yeah, the Sigma male thing, like it immediately evaporates, because again, like someone's earnestly asking them about like their hobby, and I think a lot of times that kind of snaps them back and realize, hey, like this is a hobby, and like. Yeah, and most people are gonna generally want to help a younger airsofter or a newer airsofter, right? Like become one of them, become part of that community.
No, I would 100% agree. Do you get that on the field now too? Because like again, you used to have that, right, where you would go up to like older, more experienced players and obviously ask them about stuff. Do you get a lot of that now when you go to the fields?
I mean, not so much. Well, I mean, it depends. I think it really depends on the day. Like sometimes we show up to the field, they're all mostly just older dudes. In fact, I will mostly be the one coming up to them actually and be like, hey, that's a like that's a cool like thing on your gun. Like, where'd you get that? Or like, hey, like I really like your plate carrier setup. That's super sweet, you know, like, and I would just try to strike up a conversation with them. But even for me now, like, I would generally, if I see a lot of younger or newer players that, you know, that I can see like they're just trying out Airsoft, like I want to welcome them.
Yeah.
Right. I want them to come back. You know, like if I want some easy kills, if I want to get some easy kills, I want them to come back.
Wow.
I'm just framing it in the most like cynical way, right? Like even if like you don't care, I'm saying like, well, like if it's a bunch of just experienced airsofters playing, like, you know, you're not gonna get any easy kills. Like that's just, you know, like if you want the noob to come back, you know, and you want that easy kill, you know, like, hey, make him feel welcome about it, you know? Because again, what I'm saying is the actual playing of Airsoft is only a portion of the hobby, right? Like, it doesn't matter if I get like, you know, like shot every time I get 0 kills. There's many times, you know, when I go play Airsoft, I get 0 kills the whole day. I get 0 kills, 0 confirmed kills. And at the end of the day, like, it doesn't matter because I had fun, because I was with my friends, I hung out, I had a good time, right? So for me, it doesn't matter. For a lot of people, it won't matter if they feel welcome, if they feel like, you know, they're part of a community, right? They're having fun, if they're making friends, you know, at the end of the day, they'll come back.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think just setting your expectation at that point for that, like, again, don't go in with the expectation. Like, if you're trying to go for a lot of kills, that's fine. You know, that is a valid way to play Airsoft if you're trying to be more competitive. But if it's your first time, or if you are an absolute beginner, set your expectation accordingly and just realize that, okay, look, I'm going to get shot, right? You actually had mentioned previously when we talked off camera that you had kind of like a thing when it came to getting shot, right? Because a lot of kids, especially newer players, are kind of nervous, right, about the idea of being shot with a BB. Yeah,
so, but before we get into that, I was just going to finish on my point just by saying that, like, I make it a point. If I see a younger, new Airsofter, I would actually go up to them and be like, you know, they have like a bare bones, like M4. I'd be like, hey, that's a pretty sweet M4. Where'd you get that, right? I'd be like, oh, like, nice. Like, you have, you know, like you have something. So, like, I would compliment them, right? And because, you know, at the end, they're trying, right? Like, they don't know what to get. Like, they don't, like, I'm not, you know, I'm not gonna be like, oh, he doesn't have the correct precision. Like, I'm not gonna do that. Like, at the end of the day, they're making an effort, and, you know, they want to be acknowledged. They want to feel like they're part of the community.
No, and that is an easy way to go and make them feel welcome. It's just complimenting them. Hey, good pick.
Yeah, I'd be like, yo, is that the Lance Tactical Gen 3? I freaking love that thing. That thing is sick. Or like, hey, like, are those KWA magazines? KWA is my favorite. I'll tell you why. You made a really good choice with that, right? Or like, you know, I would say like, oh, like, oh shoot, did you do a custom paint job on this thing, right? Like, oh, like I never would have thought to like paint it this way, right? Like, you know, something like that to give them some form of acknowledgement. You know, like I will go out of my way to do that, and then generally those people that do that, then they feel way more comfortable approaching me and be like, hey, like, I had a question about this, or like, hey, could you help me with that? You know, I'm like, yeah, like I'd be super happy to help anybody, you know, like at the field, again, grow or expand their hobby. But getting back to the mindset of like when to play Airsoft, like the anxiety, like, hey, I've been playing Airsoft for like almost 15 years. I still feel that anxiety, right? Like, cause I mean, I know what it feels like to get shot, but like you just, I know what it feels like, but you usually forget it. Right?
Okay.
You forget the feeling. So like you just kind of have to like remind yourself, right? So for me, right, like the first couple games, I just told myself, you know what? I'm gonna get freaking absolutely mag-dumped. And like someone's just gonna like just lay into me, and I just have to prepare myself for that, right? Like it's gonna happen, right? So, you know, so I purposely like, you know, try not to like act super like skittish or whatever. Like, no, I want to get shot the first round. I want to get shot, so that way I was like, okay, now I remember how that feels. So now, you know what? It's not too bad, right? So that sets up your day. If I don't get shot in the first couple of games, like it actually kind of throws my game off for the rest of the event. Yeah, because the whole time I'm like anticipating getting shot, you know, because I'm like, it's like, man, like I remember last time, like I got a bunch of like scars, you know, from like I was like, you know, it broke some of my skin last year. I'm like, man, like that kind of sucks. I kind of want that to happen, you know?
What if you just got to a point where you like improved so much that like it's not as often, or you won't get hit as often?
I mean, that's a possibility, but I don't think that's very likely. Again, like the balance of probability, you know, like, there's a reason why even like all the top tier special forces guys are always recruiting, because they keep dying. It doesn't matter how good you are, you're gonna get shot. So
sad
like,
reality, but yes.
So, you know, like, at the end of the day, like I just want to get it over with. I just want to get shot. So like even like when I go to like amusement parks, like I love roller coasters, but oftentimes I forget the feeling of like
The drop.
the drop, yeah, because it's a weird feeling, and like for me, like I have to kind of get used to it. So like immediately when I go to the amusement park, or like when I used to like go to like Six Flags or like other amusement parks, yeah, I find the scariest roller coaster. I'll ride that first.
Okay.
So after that, I know exactly how it feels, and after that, like I don't care what roller coaster it is on the park, like, I'll be able to do it. Or even like when you go swimming, let's say, right? Like there's some people that like they like dip their toe in the water and they're like, oh, it's cold, right?
Yeah.
And then they like inch their way down the water deeper, and then eventually it gets to your crotch level, and then your balls just go. It just goes right back, yeah. And then like. Honestly, like getting to that waist level is like the worst.
Yeah.
It's like the worst feeling, yeah.
My teacher literally used to just, and like, because my lifeguard instructor, even though the water was like, they would intentionally make the water like freezing cold for us because they wanted us to get used to like, hey, look, sometimes you're gonna have to save someone and get in the water when it's freezing cold.
Yeah.
So he would literally just don't even bother, look at the water, like, okay, and he would just come from behind it and he would either push or he would kick us in.
Nice. Yeah. So like every time I went like, oh, the water's kind of cold, and I ease my way into it, like it was almost impossible to get me to like fully submerge myself underwater, So like now, like even when I go swimming, after a while, like as a kid, I was like, what, this is kind of dumb. Like why is it that like it takes forever to do this? So eventually I just cannonball right into the water. And yeah, it sucks. The first like 5 seconds, your heartbeat starts going up like crazy, right? Blood's flowing everywhere.
Feel way more awake.
Like, you get that shock, right? Like you're almost hyperventilating. But as soon as you come out of the water, you're like, oh,
it's not that bad.
It's not that bad. And then now you can stay in the water,
Gets it over with a lot quicker.
Yeah. So that's the same mentality that I have with Airsoft. It's like, you know what? I'm going to get shot anyway, and I'm going to get shot a lot today. So I just need to get a quick reminder how it feels, and realize, you know what? It hurts, but it's not that bad. And then I can keep playing.
Do you ever like ask, like, just so you can get it over with, have you ever asked your friends, like, like if when Taylor, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever been like, yo, Taylor, I haven't gotten shot yet. Can you just shoot me?
No.
Okay.
I mean, but I guess that's a way of doing it, but when you play Airsoft, I feel like you're going to get shot. It's 100% you're going to get shot.
Statistically, at some point or another,
yeah.
Especially considering most of us, like, most of us, right, do not have that prior military service. A lot of us do. Some of us actually that play Airsoft actually do have a lot of like maybe prior training that could be applicable in certain situations. But even then, I'll still see the guys that have been like, playing for X amount of years, or even at Nelson West events.
Yeah.
Like, we'll see cadre, and some of these guys are like, SOCOM. Some of them are like 75th Rangers or something, and they'll still get shot. They'll still die.
Well, like I said, it's the reason why everyone's still recruiting. It's because everyone keeps dying. Like it's just that's the reality.
Yeah,
that's just the reality of it. So, I think if you're really scared of like getting shot, it's totally understandable. I would never make fun of anyone or put anyone down because like they don't want to get shot. Yeah, it sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, like I've had, and most of the experienced players, like we've had like we would end up like coming out off the field like bleeding, like
I think most of us have scars at this point.
Yeah, I have scars all over my arm and my body from getting shot, and like it just comes with the territory of playing the game. And like even some of our teammates, right, like their teeth have gotten shattered.
Oh yes.
Yeah, because they weren't wearing proper face protection, which we will also get into. But like there is that physical danger element. Yeah, and like of course naturally your body's gonna not want to do that.
Yeah.
So if you just kind of ease yourself into it, or like not ease yourself, but if you just get it over with and
bite
be like,
the bullet,
and you're just like, ow, that hurts, that sucks, it stings. But now you know what it feels. So now you know what to expect. Next time someone tries to shoot at you, right, you know what to expect. So now like psychologically, I think you're in a better headspace and you can play your game a lot better.
Yeah. Having that sort of like mindset again that you are going to get shot is going to honestly, I feel like, that's like one of the biggest pieces of advice honestly that we can give, because I feel like again so many people go in with the expectation that they are going to be doing so well their first time around, when statistically it's pretty much impossible to go without being shot. Not saying it's entirely impossible, but improbable at the very least, right?
Yeah.
Because there's so many things that are going on. There's so many other players that are there to do the exact same that you do. They have the exact same piece of information. It's not like you're going to be able to do an ambush on someone necessarily, right?
Yeah.
We all know exactly where we're coming from. We all know where the enemy teams are spawning from. So it's just very likely that you are going to get shot. But just expecting that and then just rolling with it at that point, roll with those punches, it's totally fine. You're still going to have a great time. But because we are going to get shot, there are some other expectations that players should have if they don't bring the right equipment with them. Specifically safety equipment. I feel like that's something we really got to stress.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So again, some pieces of advice. So, yes, every airsoft field, regulated airsoft field, will require you to wear some form of eye protection. And depending how old you are, or again, what field requires some form of face protection. So both of those things are very important. And if you do not follow that, they usually will not let you play.
They won't even let you on the field.
Yeah, they won't. Yeah, they won't let you on the field. So it's always important to make sure that you're using proper, I guess, eye protection, right? Because if you get shot in the eye without goggles, man, at 400 FPS, bro, you're gonna lose your eye, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's over, you know? So wearing proper safety equipment, like safety goggles, very important. So we have a ton of very good options here at airsoftgi.com.
Huge selection. There's
huge
no
selection.
reason why you should not have any.
Very affordable. Like some of our top selling, safety goggles that perform really well only cost like $20.
Yeah.
So if you don't have any of that, again, we offer a ton of options at Airsoft GI. So please make sure to check it out. Again, very affordable, and you don't want to be caught without it. And and a lot of beginners, a lot of times, like if they go to a smaller store, most of the time, they're probably gonna just have like a paintball mask, which it's good for paintball, not good for airsoft, because
I mean, don't be wrong. Like if you were really on a super tight budget, right? I can kind of see why it's like alluring, because again, it's an all-in-one system where it's like mesh mask, eye protection, and again, like you said, like some fields like Hollywood Sports, SC Village, and maybe some other fields that we don't know about do require hard ear protection as well.
Yeah.
And they will count that those full paintball masks, because they go over the ear.
Yeah.
That's considered hard ear protection. So I can understand why it's there, but I get what you're saying, where even though it meets the requirements, the bare minimum of a requirement, it's just going to meet the bare minimum, and it's not going to be the most fun experience using those equipment in play.
But I'd say paintball mask is probably the safest. Like if you really want to preserve your beautiful face, your pretty face.
It's pearly whites.
Yeah. Paintball mask is probably the best way to go. Are you gonna have the most fun playing with it? No. So, generally over time, we see a lot of the most common, dare I say, almost industry standard at this point in the hobby is to go with a set of full seal goggles. A full seal basically means that it is your eyes are completely closed off to the outside world.
You know, unlike sunglasses or just regular prescription lenses, how they're basically just flat, right? They don't go along with the curvature of one's face underneath. With a full seal set of goggles, they actually do curve and they cup around the eyes, so that way no BBs or any foreign material can get inside. So
they use some kind of foam or rubber, right? So the goggles themselves are making full contact with their face, so that way no stray BB can enter into the sides or to the top or the bottom of your goggles. So again, at this point, the industry standard is you wear a set of full seal goggles, and then you wear a lower metal mesh face mask. So that will go over to over the bridge of your nose usually, right? And then it'll wrap around your cheeks. Some of them are the bigger ones. They'll even have like mesh for your ears to protect your ears. So that's probably the industry standard. And usually getting something like that will probably be, don't quote me on this, anywhere between $30 to $40, depending on the
50, 30, 50.
Because the lower mesh mask will set you back anywhere between like $10 to $20. And then again, like good full seal eye protection. Again, Airsoft GI, like on the cheaper end, around $20, all the way up to like $50,
Actually,
$60, $80.
There's even cheaper ones than that are still full seal.
Oh wow, yeah. But they may or may not perform as well. So
true.
Yeah, you do get what you pay for.
ANSI rated is also the other thing too.
I'm not sure if we even sell eye protection that's not ANSI rated. I don't know, but
yes, we do. Bear in mind, this is why we always say, like, whenever it's important to know exactly what it is that you're buying when you buy from Airsoft GI. Most of the goggles that you see, like actual goggles, yes, they are going to be ANSI rated. However, we do sell, and I'm pretty sure it's obvious, right? Mesh goggles. You know the ones.
Yeah, that's a no-no. So
No, like you show up to the field with that, you are going to get kicked out, like 100%, because that is a huge liability.
Yeah, I mean, it's for your own safety. So generally, you want to avoid having mesh goggles of any kind, because if it were to take a BB strike directly in your eye, there's a chance, depending on how fast the BB is going, that the BB will actually splinter and shatter. So you get fragments of BB going to your eye. Now, personally, I don't think that's going to go fast enough to where you'll lose your eye or damage your eye. I think you're just going to get like a light sprinkling. It's like almost like getting sand in your eye.
And even then, like the fragmentation, from what I've noticed, it usually happens from like really close range and from like really, really strong shooting guns.
But generally, again, because Airsoft fields have to go through insurance. They have to get insurance and get the proper legal documentation in order to open for business. They do not allow that. So just to keep in mind, so avoid metal mesh masks. But yeah, industry standard, full seal goggles, lower mesh masks. Now, there are other experienced players, myself included, that have moved away, have become less safe than that. So you can go for a more minimal. So for example, if you go with a full paintball mask, you're gonna have a very hard time getting down the sights of your gun. Like that's reality. Like if your cheeks are suddenly like this much wider, you're not gonna be able to properly aim the sights of the gun.
So the expectation for a lot of players, like you said, is going to be able to. They want to be able, just like a video game, right? Yeah. They want to be able to like fully
get that nice ADS. Yeah. Yes. So actually, I spent a good portion of my time playing airsoft, just using the optic as like a cosmetic item, right? Because I just physically could not aim down the sights.
With those paintball masks, it's just impossible.
It's just not possible. So, but eventually, I saved the money and I got the Lancer Tactical Aero goggles. I think at the time for $20 at Airsoft GI. I got the lower mesh mask for like $10, on a sale, and then that was about $30-something. And then so after that, I think most airsofters, even today, like now everyone's kind of happy with some kind of like a compromised shooting position. So what I mean by that is, yes, it's way more low profile. So like physically you can't aim down the sights, but you kind of have to fish around a little bit to find that sweet spot. So again, I was playing like that for a very long time, and then eventually I decided to risk it for the biscuit. Okay, so now my current setup, I did make a video, by the way, on YouTube.
It's a good video.
My current, give you tutorials. I took my lower mesh mask, I took wire cutters, and I cut a rectangle right where the mouth is. So now I just have this rectangle piece of metal that will, all it will do is it'll protect my teeth because I don't want my teeth getting shot out, okay? Then I wear an elastic material balaclava. So
it's like a nice form-fitting of mesh covering.
It's like a ninja. It's like a ninja.
Yeah,
mask,
yeah.
Okay, yeah. So we have a ton of them at Airsoft GI. You can get it from a ton of different manufacturers or brands, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
They'll pretty much do the same thing. They wrap around your face, they cover your face. And for me, I think that is just good enough to where if I got shot in the face, most of the time it will not leave a mark.
It can still leave it if you end up getting. Obviously, depends on how big.
Leave a mark as in like I'm not gonna get like.
The biggest thing is
like an opening in my skin and I'm bleeding.
But the biggest thing as far as like the main reason why it's there is, again, like you said, to protect the teeth.
Yeah. So I wear that because the form thing is elastic. It's hugging my face, and then I take that metal rectangle, I wrap it in like cloth tape, and then the corner so I don't get the sharp spiky bits like digging into me, and then I slip that underneath the balaclava where my mouth would be. And so now if I were to get shot in the face, I have my full seal goggles and that'll protect my eyes, but if I get shot anywhere else in the face, it's gonna suck a lot more. It's gonna hurt, but I'm able to aim down that sight really well. And so actually part of the trade-off, the reason why I wanted to do that is because I wanted to build the habit of constantly getting a fast sight picture, increasing the ADS speed, if you will, so it actually encourages me to stay on my gun all the time, like as much as possible, so if I'm like rounding the corner, if I'm just doing it all willy-nilly like this, my face is now suddenly really opened up, to getting shot in the face. So to protect against that, right, I use a gun. So I'm constantly, on the sights of my gun like this, right? Now, like a good portion of my face is now covered by the gun. Right, so it kind of forced me to develop that habit. So that's kind of how I justify it. And again, like if I don't, if I get shot in the face at the end of the day, it's gonna suck more. But but I've said like our friends, our teammates, some of them are really ballsy and they just don't wear any lower face protection, and they lose their teeth.
Some of them have actually lost several of their teeth.
Yeah.
I think though, when it comes to like goggles, there is one sort of like expectation that I feel like, and this one I don't really even blame people for like not having, or for having rather. They'll think that it's never going to fog, or that they're never going to have any complications with goggles.
Yes, fog. Yes.
Yeah, that's a big issue that even plagues most players, even experienced players like us. Yeah, still run into that.
Yeah, there's so many different home remedies when it comes to fog. Like some people say, oh, you should like spit on them, or you should, or you should, like use like dish soap or like
Dawn
oil.
Dish soap. That's one that divers use.
Yeah, or oil. And then then they sell a lot of different companies. They sell specialized like anti-fog chemicals,
Mhm.
you know, like anti-fog wipes, anti-fog spray, right? Or some of them even come in like a little dropper bottle, right? So I mean, they all will work to a certain extent, but in my opinion, I think that the biggest culprit of fog is actually your goggles are dirty, and most people don't understand that. Like, yeah, like your goggles are, you know, for the most part, if you're not playing airsoft every day, it's gonna collect dust.
Yeah.
You know, if you're out in the field, like in an outdoor environment, yeah, like dirt's getting kicked up, dust is getting kicked up. It's gonna, you know, it's gonna have like a layer, a sheen of dust. Even when you sweat, right? Like all that particleized sweat, it's not just water that forms. It's like it's water mixed in with like salt and other different like minerals that your body is putting out. And when that dries, when that evaporates, it leaves behind, right, little particles of stuff. So when you run around with that goggle with a layer, so basically like imagine the plastic is completely smooth versus when you have like all the dust and like dried sweat and all this stuff gunk on your goggles, if you zoom in enough into the surface of the goggle, it's going to leave like little bumps and crevices, right? So when moisture starts to collect, it collects on those bumpy surfaces. It provides more, lack of a better term, like traction, right? For moisture to collect and sit, right? Like more securely.
Sure,
right?
yeah.
To the surface. So if you look at, for example, like cars, like with cars nowadays, ceramic coating is a big thing, right? So basically, if you look at the surface of the car with the microscope, right, the car paint is actually very bumpy, a lot of cracks, a lot of like divots, right? It's an uneven surface. So the ceramic coating is that they coat it so it fills in all the cracks. So now you have a true smooth surface. And so when the car comes in contact with moisture, most of the moisture actually just falls off the surface of the car. So if you're fogging up really bad, most likely it means that your goggles are really dirty.
Dawn dish soap has been a favorite like method of mine as far as cleaning up my iPro. Usually like day before, again, this is going back to what we said at the very beginning, right? The day before, making sure you have everything packed, ready to go, and it's set, right? Like charging your batteries, cleaning out my eye protection is like one of the biggest things that I like to do, because I personally hate when I encounter fogging. I do have like anti-fog solutions.
Yeah.
I do carry it, like I'll buy it just for the team.
Yeah.
I'll have a big pack of like anti-fog wipes just so everyone can use, so none of us have that issue. Because I personally hate fogging quite a bit.
Yeah, and then also another factor is if your lenses are really scratched, again, you're creating small crevices and divots in the lens for moisture to cling onto when you're sweating and when you're playing. So yeah, keeping them clean is a very, very important thing, I think, when it comes to fogging. And yeah, again, like if you ask people that complain about how much their goggles fall, if you ask, hey, when's the last time you cleaned out your goggles, they probably wouldn't be able to give you an answer.
Yeah.
Like generally, in my experience, that's what it tends to be. And so, yeah, for me personally, I like to use like I go on Amazon. I look for camera lens cleaning fluid. It comes in dropper bottles. You can buy them for like $5 or less on Amazon. And then having a microfiber cloth, like that goes a long way. So generally, you want to avoid. So a lot of these goggles nowadays, they come with some kind of chemical coating to also discourage fog, like an anti-fog coating. So if you start like using like harsh chemicals, which I think Dawn dish soap is a very good idea because they don't put a lot of harsh chemicals in there.
No.
But if you like spray it with like Windex or like sometimes like really strong like rubbing alcohol or something like that to clean those glasses, like you're gonna notice like some like weird like rippling effect happening on the lens, and that's a chemical coating just coming right off.
Mm-hmm.
So now you lose all your anti-fog properties. Which is sad. So yeah, generally I recommend getting like camera lens cleaning fluid, because again, camera lenses are also chemically coated as well. And so this formula is basically specifically designed to leave as much of that coating on and not rub it off, right? So it's going to protect the coating on your lenses, on your glasses or your goggles, and then if the microfiber cloth, it'll absorb a lot of the dust without like dragging it through the lens and causing micro scratches. You know, so that's very it's very important. So if you really want to get meticulous about it, you can also go on Amazon, buy microscope wipes. So they're disposable microfiber cloths, napkins, and the stuff that I use in the film industry. And so, you know, if you use like that lens cleaning fluid and the microfiber, so that way we're not leaving any scratches on the lenses. And so it's a one-time use thing. So you take the box, it looks like a tissue box, So you take the first one, so the first one out, you take it, you throw it away because that already has dust on it. Then you take the second new one, right? You dab a little bit of that the cleaning fluid, and then you gently wipe off the surface of your glasses. And I will almost guarantee you that like if you properly clean your goggles, following those instructions, you would automatically have way less trouble fogging, or you would have less fogging in general. Yeah.
No, that's pretty sound advice. One thing I would say, another piece of like, I guess, or one thing that I guess a player can expect that wouldn't normally come to expect from playing Airsoft, and this is not necessarily actually a bad thing, dare I say, it's actually a really good thing that a player can expect. Being able to pick up and learn good habits and good gun safety or gun handling skills and advice.
Yeah.
Because Airsoft as a whole, like, I mean, let's be real, like these things look like real firearms, right? For the most part, they're going to be 1-to-1 scale of an actual firearm. So a lot of times, especially a lot of older guys, they like to go ahead and practice a lot of good gun safety or weapons handling like techniques, and like to not necessarily enforce that, but like to pass that down to especially newer players that might not know otherwise, right? And that includes, like, again, just not flagging someone, not looking down the barrel of their airsoft gun when it's like, oh, there's a jam and there's still a battery in there, you know? Like stuff like that you just don't like to see.
Yeah.
Going to an airsoft field like that and playing is over time it will teach you like common gun sense.
Yeah.
I believe that's the best term for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, most fields generally the referees, you know, their main job is actually to keep you safe. Yeah. That's number one job that they do, is make sure everyone is playing safely. So generally most referees at airsoft fields, they'll teach, right, newer players how to be safe with their airsoft gun, right? So a lot of fields will be like, okay, like once you're leaving the actual playing area, take out the magazine in your gun. They'll show you how to clear the gun safely, right? They always say, put your gun on safety. A lot of newer players, I notice, if they have trouble, you know, the refs will come and show them, hey, like this is how to put your gun on safe, right? Here's how you clear the gun to make sure there's no BBs inside it, right? Like, or like, hey, here's a barrel cover. This is how you can use it. So, so generally, like, I think just by playing airsoft, naturally you're gonna learn better gun safety habits. But also, what we mentioned earlier before this podcast started was we actually touched on like playing safely, like playing in a safe way. So. I think we mentioned something about like people like flagging each other while they're playing airsoft. Yeah. So, you know, like flag it as in like you're pointing the gun at somebody unintentionally, right? Like your teammate or your buddy. And, you know, like, again, technically, I guess you would say it's safe, but, you know, because friendly fire is allowed and it does happen, but you don't want to accidentally shoot your friend in the back.
Yeah, that's just not cool.
Yeah. You know, like it kind of takes you out of that spirit of having fun, you know? So like, yeah, like I noticed even when we would play like BB Wars, you know, like with younger players, generally like we see those kind of like bad habits, you know, because like they don't understand that aspect of gun safety. Like they're able to understand, hey, like I'm at the airsoft field, I finger off the trigger till I'm ready to fire. You know, they understand hey, like don't put a magazine in the gun, you know, like while you're off the playing area, or like, oh, like, you know, they know how to put the safety on their gun. Like they understand that.
Yeah.
But they don't understand like playing safely, where like, you know, they'll literally like run across, you know, like to go from like cover to cover. They'll run across in front of like their teammates' like gun barrel, their muzzle, you know, to get to the next position, you know?
It's funny when they do it, like, especially when the team is currently engaging someone. It's like, oh no.
Yeah. So generally, you know, like if you do something like that, you know, you want to be behind. You want to be behind the barrel of your friend's guns, right? So when you're running, so you know, if you want to reenact your favorite like war movie scene, you're like, hey, cover me, and then your buddy's like, all right, I'm suppressing you, and then, you know, and then you're going to town, you know, shooting at where the enemies are. You don't want to run in front of that, right? Like normally you want to find a way to go around and behind, right, your teammate. Or even one thing that I see even experienced players do, sometimes even I'm guilty of, is you're shooting from behind your teammate. Yeah. Right. So why is that dangerous? Well, unsafe is because if your teammate suddenly decides to jerk away, let's say from enemy shots, or if they decide to like move somewhere else, right, out of cover is like, or behind cover is like, well, that's all it takes for me to accidentally shoot them, right? Like it's like I've done that before, like it's happened, you know, I've seen it happen at airsoft fields. So generally like to encourage for a lot of players, new or experienced, is you got to earn your shot. So don't be lazy. Don't be just sitting in the back and just like shooting over your teammates' heads. You don't want to do that. So what I mean by earning your shot is you want to be kind of like parallel to your buddy. So let's say like if your friend is like in front of like ahead of you, let's say, and he's shooting or whatever, and you want to shoot at the enemy, right? Be a good friend, be a good buddy.
Move to the left.
Move up to your friend, so that way you guys can both, have your gun barrels kind of like almost side by side, right?
Yeah.
Like, because let's say like you're shooting from behind your homie, and he decides to like pop his head up at the wrong time, then like he's dead.
Yeah.
You're gonna accidentally shoot him. Like it's happened.
Good old blue on blue.
Yeah, it's happened. So, be the good friend, be the good teammate. Make sure to earn your shot. Make sure that you move up, to where your friends are at, so that way you guys can both safely, engage the enemy player.
I think for the most part, we covered pretty much everything at this
Yeah,
when it comes
yeah.
to like what to expect. Basically, if we had to, in summation, when you go into your first Airsoft game, expect to get shot,
Yeah.
right? Expect to encounter players, right? Because again, there are other people playing, but also expect to have fun with it as well. Expect that you are, despite all the issues that you might have with either the equipment, maybe fogging, that could be a thing. Because even with all the advice that we give you, you can still encounter a number of these issues. But at the end of the day, as long as you're expecting to have fun, then you just came out on top and you won for that day.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, Airsoft is not a competitive sport. There's nothing at stake, right? No one's gonna die. You're not really there to save the world, right? Like you're there to pretend and play war, right? And at the end of the day, Airsoft, it can be a skill-based thing, right? So we're just being the mindset of constantly we're trying to learn how to be better players, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, I think Airsoft is so fun because I can always try to learn or pick up something new to make me a better player, right? So if that didn't happen to me, like if I just completely plateaued and I'm not learning anything new, I'm not evolving as a player, like Airsoft will become a very boring sport, or hobby, right? Boring hobby. So just come with the mindset, hey, I'm gonna go out there, have fun with my friends, right? Look cool, shoot the bad guys. They're gonna shoot me. I'm gonna get shot a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll come back at the end of the day. I'll learn some really cool ideas. I'll learn some really cool concepts. And then I could use it on the next game.
There it is.
So,
It's that simple.
Yeah.
All right, guys. This has been another episode of the Range Time Podcast. My name is Isaiah.
And Boaz.
We will catch you guys on the next episode. Take it easy, guys.